Okay, so let's start understanding what digitalization is, right? How it is applied by corporates and what it would mean at your peer-to-peer level. That means at your personal level, how you can apply it for creating your path towards digitalization as a journey. Okay. Now, if you see on your screen, you see a definition for digitalization. Okay, and I'll read it out for you. The digitalization is also known as digital transformation. It is the use of digital technologies for transforming business models to improve efficiencies for better top and bottom lines in process of creating a highly efficient ecosystem. Okay. Now, what does this mean? If you remember your lessons from Rise 1, there are various models that typically businesses work in. Okay. Now, in the digitalization part of the world, the very fact that digitalization has come into play is the fact that automation can help large organizations to move their models to the other newer required models of the newer world with minimal distortion to their current operations and operating systems. All right. What does this mean? This means that once you are, for example, in a B2P model, and now you decide to go to a D2C model, that is a direct to consumer model, your basic operational requirements from a digitalization perspective is in place, right? What that means is you have a hardware layer, you have applications that can do this for you, you have your operations which are automated, right? Now it's a question of moving from current business to business. That means the current partners that you have, who are your customers as well, and you create a platform that deal with other customers. That means the businesses that are consumed, the produce of the first businesses are consumed by the other businesses, now can be used to provide it to the end customer, right? Because each of these businesses might be providing it to an end customer for the usage of the goods or the services that are provided. Now, a clear example in this case would be, for example, an iron or a steel making company, right? Now, a steel making company might be making steel sheets, they might be making modified steel elements or usage of steel in, say, the larger infrastructure activities which are done by infrastructure or EPC companies which use steel for their purpose and so on and so forth, right? Now, this steel company would have, say, completed that digitalization journey and are ready to do and change the models for subsequent ones. And now they decide to move from moving away from making sheets, or maybe not even moving away. They're making steel sheets. Now they want to make steel jewelry. All right, a very different industry altogether. All right. Now imagine they have the basic layer, they have the infrastructure layer which is already done, either cloud or their own hosting environments or the data centers that they have and so on and so forth. Second layer is the applications that are required to automate their operations. It's already in place. So their operations per se, in this case, could be the functions like HR, their functions for sale, their function for manufacturing and so on and so forth is already automated. All right. Now, these automation and these applications which have an interface now need to get tweaked for usage to provide it to the end user or a customer who will consume this jewelry, right? But this is for a D2C model. They can also produce this as a platform where the mass production that they do can be used by their dealers or their super dealers to distribute it further on their behalf to other businesses who then go to the end customer. All right. Now, suppose in this example, let's take that as they're going to the end customer. For that, as I told you, the below three layers are already done. Now they want to create an interface for the end customer to come and buy it from them, right? Whereas the other layers are in synergy already. So they might at best create a portal, right? Which is a jewelry portal where people can come directly to buy from, right? Now they have the backend supply chain, they have the backend activities already automated, remember, as we discussed. So they will only use to create an interface or a portal which will ride over and above this layer an architecture that is created below, which now only allows them to create jewelry designs to showcase to the external world, which will come, buy and run with it, while as the backend, which has the databases, the other elements, which are getting automated once that activity starts. You understand? So digitalization at the back end is completely done. So now they're making the front end to ensure that the model from a B2B earlier, which was only making sheets and giving to businesses who then sell to businesses, is now getting to end customer with a different model of activities, jewelry in this case. All right, but that is the power of digital transformation. That is why it has come to being. Because if you see, the steps for digitalization starts from digitization. That means you make smaller elements come into play for example, scan of your current files, which could be humongous in piles, coming into play, and you have now put them in digitized format. Then there could be a layer of applications which are required to use those files. For example, the financial layers. They'll use those files, whom they're sold to, why they're sold to, etc. And then the accounting for the same. The layer after that for applications would include, creating a whole platform for their financial requirements to create reports for auditing purposes and giving it to the government and so on and so forth. And then there's a larger layer where partners whom they are working with, along with the manufacturing activities, is all the data comes across and creates an ecosystem where the transactions happen through. Okay. Now that whole what I just mentioned to you is also part and parcel of the entire digitization process, which then refers to the larger digitalization of model changes. Okay, I hope I'm making myself clear, and if not, my suggestion is you go through a book called Digitalization, which I mentioned earlier, written by us, which has, rather written by me, which has the detail of such digitalization activities coming through. And as you progress now further on, you will get these concepts much more clearer, because in the rest of the completion of the Rise to program. Okay, and also you'll get much more clearer when I take you through the personal activities once we relate it to how corporates work and how at an individual level this can be applied to. All right. So remember, digitalization is basically is done as a journey to move from model A to model B, so that they don't have to do repeated exercises and activities what has happened during the process doing model 1, where the digitalization actually took place. Okay, but what goes into digitalization I just explained to you, right? Where you're automating so many operations of yours, including the functions, where it comes to a point where the entire operational model is automated and can be used with small tweaks to use for making a larger business model. Okay, and quickly, if you see your screen and the concentric circles, right? This is how it can be applied at the individual level. Now, once you are in the 4 layers that I mentioned to you for automation, which is digitization, where you will be using your PCs for, you're enabling yourself by using the computing activities of application software to write your Word document. You use it for producing certain digital graphics that you keep on using for your emails or for your social media and so on and so forth. That is the basic level of digitization that happens at a personal level. Okay, so you are automated to that extent by using these applications. The second level is getting digitally enhanced at an individual level again, where you start using other application programs used and needed for your creation of digital assets. Now, this could be, for creating vlogs, you might use a little bit of equipment for your videos. You might use video software for editing purposes. You might use Photoshop related softwares or photo related softwares for creating your graphical outcomes that you want out of your assets that you're creating. Okay. Then the third level is the platform based activities, where whatever you produce, if you have to go out there or even use subscription based models, you use these platforms to integrate with your systems to create that environment for yourself or your basic ecosystem that will help you produce your digital assets to the optimal level which is probably best in class, right? And then when you use this for your sales and marketing purposes, you use other platforms which are CRM based, right? And we talked about ClickFunnels, we talked about uh, ConvertKit, ClickMagick, etc., right? Or Movavi, which is used for movie applications. Now, these are platforms, they are using this as applications for you to, on a subscription based model, to start using these things. And once you start doing that, right, you created your internal ecosystem for doing this. The final ecosystem, or the larger ecosystem, is when you start interacting with your customers, right, with the interfaces. So with that given, you create your partners, your applications, and then you have your respective contractors, and then your customers. That creates your larger ecosystem, which then you can use for complete digitization, and then you keep on creating your digital assets, which with your basic operations in place, you can only enhance it. All right. With that, let's jump to the next topic.